sacred space and beloved community with words from Arlen Goff. Thresholds. We cross them every day, from room to room, from outside to inside, and back again, from here to there, from anywhere to everywhere, from age to age. Each threshold offers an opportunity for change, for renewal, for transformation, from what we were and what we are to what we can be. In this hour and in this place, we cross a threshold from our everyday, day-to-day, everydayness into space and time attuned to the other, to the sacred, to the holy, into an awareness of new life pregnant with possibilities. How will we be removed? How will we be renewed in this moment? How will we be changed by this hour? How will we be transformed through this gathering of beloved community? Come, you longing, thirsty souls. Come, let us worship together. I invite you to rise in body or spirit to join our voices in our opening hymn, number 1067, Rising Green. Our chanting COVID guidelines ask us to mask while singing.
That's not
Mother Earth.
Mother Earth.
Mother Earth. Thank you.
Which I'll play once because we've never sung it.
That's right.
It's a very easy tune. I'll play it before we sing.
together, we light this small scrap of light, symbol of Grandfather Sun's enormous power, whose energy burns so brightly in these days of deep summer, catapulting the leaves and vines, vegetables, flowers, and fruits to astonishing size, lengths, and heights, spilling over the tops of cages, walls, and trellises, delighting and nourishing all beings. We bask in the warmth and the heat of these days with lightened hearts and quickened senses, in gratitude and in faith. Our story today is the descent of Inanna, and I'm going to tell it in two parts from two different sources. First, I'll read from this book, which is Ladybird Tales of Superheroes. It has an introduction by David Solomons, but this particular story is Inanna in the Underworld, a tale from ancient Sumer, retold by Yvonne Battle Felton and illustrated by Fatini Tiku. And I'm going to read portions of roughly the first half of this, and then I'll switch to another version. Inanna, queen of heaven and earth, sat on her throne. Ninshuber, her servant and closest friend, brought more pillows. Something is missing, said Inanna. I know all there is to know about heaven and earth, but there's one place I've never been. Do you mean the underworld? Ninshuber asked. You do know me so well. Inanna smiled. Your sister, Ereshkigal, won't like it, Ninshuber said. She's not the most welcoming goddess, and she's in mourning for her husband. Then I must go down and pay my respects. Please, Inanna, don't go, Ninshuber said. No one returns from the underworld. No one returns? Inanna liked nothing better than a challenge. We'll see about that. I'll go immediately. Ninshuber sighed. There will be trouble. Shall I prepare for battle? She asked. No, Inanna said. You must stay here. If I do not return in 3 days' time, I will need your help from above. Inanna gave Ninshuber detailed instructions that her friend hoped she would not need. The goddess then got dressed for her journey. She looked divine. She wore a long, lustrous wig, a royal robe, a shining breastplate, a glittering crown, a beaded necklace, a golden bracelet, and in her hand she carried a measuring rod and measuring line. Each of these things would protect her and give her strength. Inanna strode up to the gates of the underworld and banged on them, demanding to be let in. Who are you? Nettie, the gatekeeper asked. I am Inanna, queen of heaven and earth. I come to pay my respects. Let me pass, Inanna commanded. I must consult my queen, Nettie replied. When Nettie found her, Queen Ereshkigal was furious. She knew her sister had not come to mourn. So why is Inanna here, she wondered. Perhaps all of heaven and earth are not enough. Perhaps she needs to rule the underworld as well. Well, let us see what she has to say for herself, Ereshkigal muttered. Ereshkigal told Nettie, bolt each of the 7 gates of the underworld and only let my sister pass through each gate when she removes one of her protections. Ereshkigal meant to humble and weaken her sister. At the first gate, Nettie said to Inanna, "Take off your crown." "Why?" asked Inanna. "To gain, one must lose," he warned. "Do not question the ways of the underworld." At each gate, Inanna was forced to give over another one of her protections until finally she was powerless. Here the story continues, narrating how Inanna was condemned to remain in the underworld and how she was reborn and returned to the realm above. It's a complicated tale. But we're going to take our story today only through Inanna's passage through the seventh gate to the underworld. For this portion of the story, I'll share with you the end of a poem titled Inanna and the Seven Gates of May by Jinx Bauer. But first I'll explain these May, spelled M-E. It's not the seven gates of me, the seven gates of May. In their book, Inanna, Queen of Heaven and Earth, Diane Bookstein and Samuel Noah Kramer described the May as that set of universal and immutable rules and limits which had to be observed by God and man alike. And the gifts of civilization. Each item Inanna wears, all those things she put on and has to discard as she passes through the gates, represents a May. From Inanna and the Seven Gates of May by Jinx Bauer. This is the end of Jinx Bauer's poem, as Inanna gets to the seventh gate. Where she expects a gate, there stands only a black mirror. Nettie has vanished. And Inanna stands alone, staring at her own reflection and the echoes of the gates she has passed. She sees the reflection of that which she has sacrificed for herself. But here, Inanna can hear her sister's voice through the glass. Here, Ereshkigal wails. The dread queen weeps. The goddess of the underworld screams in grief, in anger, in pain. And Inanna can feel it all, though she knows it is still but a fragment of her sister's agony. She strips her rose from her shoulders, falls to her knees, presses her face and hands against the glass. Hot tears run down the gate of manifestation, and she begs forgiveness. She asks to help ease the pain, the suffering, the burden. Inanna seeks to change. In the space between contractions, Ereshkigal is going through contractions. Ereshkigal asks her the final question. The goddess of the above bows her head. The mirror fades away. Inanna crosses the threshold and faces the reality of their mirrored worlds. Please remain seated for our musical response the more we get together from your order of service. Seated for our prayer hymn number 396, I Know This Rose Will Open.
I know my fear.
prayer words this morning are by Elizabeth Nguyen. In the silence that follows the spoken prayer, you're invited forward to light a candle for whatever you hold in your heart. Spirit, I would really rather not learn this. Didn't think I needed to. I thought someone else could do it. Thought a leader was coming to do it. Thought the young people could do it. Or the elders could do it. Or the professionals. Or I don't want to learn it because it means letting go of something I hold dear. Letting go of being someone who knows the answers. Letting go of being someone who doesn't know. Letting go of the way I see the world. Letting go of how I might have to change. Letting go of certainty, of logic, of facts, of control. Of the myth that you can live on this earth and not harm. Or the myth that I can't learn anything new. Help me to learn it, please. And then help me to live what I have learned and do right by the gift of being taught. Amen. I light a final candle for all that we hold in our hearts. If your heart is hurting, know that your community is here to help. Please reach out with any need. What does Channing Memorial Church have to offer to this community, to the community at large, to generations going forward, and to more seekers now? Why is Channing worth extending ourselves and our resources? Last winter, I compiled a list of points answering these questions. My list goes on for 3 pages. Think about it. Why is it important to ensure that Channing has a solid foundation to move forward sustainably into the future? Why do you give of your time, talent, and treasure? The morning's offering will be gratefully received. For those of you watching the service online, you may contribute to a virtual offering plate using the donate button on our website or by mailing a check to the church office. Will the ushers please come forward? For all that you give and all that you do for our church community and its wider concerns, we give thanks. These are the Reclaiming Traditions Principles of Unity. It starts with a quotation. My law is love unto all beings. From the Charge of the Goddess by Doreen Valiente. The values of the Reclaiming Tradition stem from our understanding that the earth is alive and all life is sacred and interconnected. We see the goddess as immanent in the earth's cycles of birth, growth, death, decay, and regeneration. Our practice arises from a deep spiritual commitment to the earth, to healing, and to the linking of magic with political action. Each of us embodies the divine. Our ultimate spiritual authority is within, and we need no other person to interpret the sacred to us. We foster the questioning attitude and honor intellectual, spiritual, and creative freedom. We are an evolving, dynamic tradition and proudly call ourselves witches. Our diverse practices and experiences of the divine weave a tapestry of many different threads. We include those who honor mysterious ones, goddesses, and gods of myriad expressions, genders, and states of being, remembering that mystery goes beyond form. Our community rituals are participatory and ecstatic, celebrating the cycles of the seasons and our lives, and raising energy for personal, collective, and earth healing. We know that everyone can do the life-changing, world-renewing work of magic, the art of changing consciousness at will. We strive to teach and practice in ways that foster personal and collective empowerment, to model shared power, and to open leadership roles to all. We make decisions by consensus and balance individual autonomy with social responsibility. Our tradition honors the wild and calls for service to the earth and the community. We work in diverse ways, including nonviolent direct action for all forms of justice: environmental, social, political, racial, gender, and economic. We are an anti-racist tradition that strives to uplift and center BIPOC voices, Black, Indigenous, people of color. Our feminism includes a radical analysis of power, seeing all systems of oppression as interrelated, rooted in structures of domination and control. We welcome all genders, all gender histories, all races, all ages and sexual orientations, and all those differences of life situation, background, and ability that increase our diversity. We strive to make our public rituals and events accessible and safe. We try to balance the need to be justly compensated for our labor with our commitment to make our work available to people of all economic levels. All living beings are worthy of respect. All are supported by the sacred elements of air, fire, water, and earth. We work to create and sustain communities and cultures that embody our values, that can help to heal the wounds of the earth and her peoples, and that can sustain us and nurture future generations. Our second reading is by Jan Richardson. Go slow if you can, slower, more slowly still. Friendly, dark, or fearsome, this is no place to break your neck by rushing, by running, by crashing into what you cannot see. Then again, it is true, different darks have different tasks, and if you have arrived here unaware, if you have come in peril or in pain, this might be no place you should dawdle. I do not know what these shadows ask of you, what they might hold that means you good or ill. It is not for me to reckon whether you should linger or you should leave. But this is what I can ask for you, that in the darkness there be a blessing, that in the shadows there be a welcome, that in the night you be encompassed by the love that knows your name. Please rise in body or spirit to join our voices in hymn number 1068, Rising Green. It's Monday morning. This past Monday morning. On waking, my first thought is, I'm late for breakfast. I would be if I were still at camp, but I'm not at camp. I'm in my familiar bed. At camp, by this time, I'd be arriving at the dining hall, clean enough and human enough to interact in a room full of around 60 people. On this morning, I come downstairs to a blinking phone machine. My first phone message upon landing is from Blue Cross Blue Shield about my personal health maintenance program, or something like that. I hit erase and wonder, is all this spam something new in human lives? Or is it just the modern day version of predators? No, I think it's more like that pesky other species that's always trying to get your food as soon as you're not looking. You can never quite forget that they may be just around the corner. Life would be nicer if we could just relax into what we're doing. But it's not like these intruders are life-threatening. It's just that we have to constantly be on the ready to shoo them away when they come around. I'd returned home, but I hadn't yet returned home to my normal frame of mind. As I sit down to jot down some close to the event notes for this sermon, I realize I don't feel normal at all. I feel a peculiar heaviness of head. In part, I just feel odd being so very indoors. I can see outside, out the window, and hear the birds, but I'm not feeling the elements the way I've become accustomed to. Also, although I'm away from the intense spiritual energies of camp, I haven't quite grounded in this reality yet. I'm in a liminal space, and that's okay, but not entirely comfortable. We'd left for camp the prior Monday morning and arrived home sometime in the latish afternoon on Sunday. Where had we been exactly? One way of saying it is we've been at Buffalo Gap Retreat Center in West Virginia, about 25 miles northwest of Winchester, Virginia. That's about 2 hours away for us. Others had come from various places in the mid-Atlantic, plus quite a few from Midwestern states like Ohio, Minnesota, and Michigan, and some from California and points in Canada. Buffalo Gap is nestled between tree-covered mountains, helping you feel really away once you've arrived. The cabins we stayed in are somewhat, but not too rustic. In addition to cabins, the retreat center includes a beach house, a wood-fired lakefront sauna, which we weren't using this time around, a semi-open-air dining hall adjoining a commercial kitchen, and a 3,600 square foot open-air pavilion. I've got a drawing down here of the sauna from a couple of decades ago, more than 2 decades ago, when Dan and I used to go to this camp pre-kids, and I bought it at the camp auction from the artist. So that's the physical setting. But where were we really? This was a week between the worlds, otherwise known as a Reclaiming Summer Intensive, or Witch Camp. There are quite a few of these camps throughout the US and around the world. This Mid-Atlantic camp is organized, as I said, by Spiral Heart, a community in the reclaiming tradition of witchcraft. On the evening after we arrive at camp, we cast a circle, creating sacred space. And we remain in that space until we open the circle a week later on Sunday. One of the hallmarks of Witch Camp is that we let our talking selves, so to speak, usually so in the driver's seat, take more of a passenger seat position. Part of the closing ritual is getting ready to readjust this so we get back safely to the places we're going home to. And so that we don't have too rough a landing getting back to things like people's jobs on Monday morning. Because we've just done a week of deep and intense spiritual work and play, we've spent the week in a state of openness, emotionally and spiritually, that doesn't support all our needs in the ordinary day-to-day. Another way of describing witch camp is that it's the only place where I hear one man say to another, "Your outfit looked great last night." Where Baz is never misgendered for a whole week among people who mostly didn't know him before. And where one of the participants declares her pronouns are she, hag. But what do we actually do at camp? The day starts with breakfast, cooked by the blessed Mirabai and her little team of kitchen witches. I don't know how they manage to cook for 60 people, including omnivores, vegetarians, vegans, and some who are gluten-free or dairy-free, to the satisfaction and delight of everyone. That's a form of magic. The rest of the morning we attend our path, which is like a class. There are 5 offerings to choose from for the week, so 3 hours in path in the morning. After lunch, we get together and talk in our affinity groups. These are small check-in groups, some chosen randomly, and some based on some commonly held identity. I take the random assignment approach. The mid to late afternoons are filled with optional offerings, but I usually need rest more than another activity, and the occasional other event, like the all-camp anti-racism meeting on Friday. At 5:40, we meet for Ritual Conspiracy. This is led by the Ritual Art Team, more commonly known by their initialism, the Rats. Here we're let in on the intention for the evening's ritual, and we're clued in on practical things like whether masks will be required for a portion of the ritual. And the folks known as the sound spinners might teach us a chant we'll be using. Dinner's at 6. Thursday night, Baz and I are signed up for our gift of service doing dishes after dinner, and Dan is on for pots and pans. Otherwise, we're free after dinner to get ready for the ritual. We do a lot of ritual. The entire week is a ritual, really, and we do smaller but meaningful and effective rituals at other points during the day. But the main pull out all the stops rituals are in the evenings. The rituals are anchored by the Rats, but many people lead parts, and everyone participates actively. To give you the general flavor of the beast, I'd like to read to you a description of reclaiming ritual from the Reclaiming website. This is excerpted from an article titled "A Working Definition of Reclaiming" by Starhawk. Our approach to magic and ritual is experimental. Some of the techniques we use include meditation, breath work, movement, trance, drumming, chanting, visualization, drum trance, divination, aspecting, anchoring, and others. Our training teaches us how to read and shape the energy of groups of people. Our style of ritual could be described with the acronym EIEIO. E, ecstatic, in that we aim to create a high intensity of energy that is passionate and pleasurable. I, improvisational. We value spontaneity within the overall structure of our rituals, encourage people to create liturgy in the moment rather than script it beforehand, to respond to the energy around us rather than predetermine how it should move. Second E, ensemble. In our larger group rituals, we work with many priestesses together, taking different roles and performing different functions that ideally support each other, like the members of a good jazz ensemble. We encourage a fluid sharing of those roles over time to prevent the development of hierarchy and to allow each person to experience many facets of ritual. I, inspired. Because we each have access to the sacred, we are each capable of creating elements of ritual. Although we honor the myths, the poems, the songs, and the stories that have come down to us from the past, we are not bound by the past, for divine inspiration is constantly present in each of us. And organic. We strive for a smooth, coherent flow of energy in a ritual that has a life of its own to be honored. Our rituals are linked to the rhythms of cyclical time and organic life. Most people treat dressing for these rituals as part of preparing to enter ritual space physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. We arrive changed and ready for change. But you can come just as you are if you want to. The sound spinners draw us to the pavilion with a soundscape, largely drumming. As we ascend the steps or ramp to the space, someone offers some form of pre-ritual purification, and we enter. Drums and other instruments pull us in and get us moving. Some of us let the energy move through us and respond to it, moving our bodies, dancing around the space, both receiving and shaping the energy in that way. Others sit along the edges, joining in more inwardly, and also serving to hold those edges. Everyone here is their own authority and chooses how they participate at any time, and all participation is integral to the whole. Each ritual formally begins with a land acknowledgement, followed by a meditative grounding. We cast a circle and call on the elements and directions of air, east, fire, south, water, west, earth, north, and spirit, center. We invoke ancestors and descendants, and since our overall camp theme this year was the descent of Inanna, or Inanna and the 7 gates of May, each night we invoked Inanna, Neti, and Ereshkigal. All of this preparing and invoking is followed by the symbolic action at the heart of the ritual. At the close of each ritual, we say our thanks and farewells to all the forces we invited in and open our circle. During the week of this particular camp, we worked only with the portion of the Inanna story involving the actual descent to the underworld, in which the goddess passes through the 7 gates. Each night of camp, we symbolically undertook a piece of Inanna's journey. I'm not going to try to describe the symbolic activity we engaged in for the heart of each ritual. I will enumerate just the intention of each night's ritual and the gates we traversed. Monday. We created sacred space not just for this evening's ritual, but cast a circle around the entire Buffalo Gap space to be our container for the whole week. Another special piece for our first night was what we call catching the thread. The various reclaiming camps throughout the world are connected by these symbolic threads that we toss from camp to camp. On the first night of the Spiral Heart Camp, we caught the thread thrown to us on July 2nd at the end of the California Witch Camp in the Mendocino Woodlands. The ritual intent for this evening was, we arrive to this work along comfortable paths, only to find uncomfortable truths. We find power in surrender. On this first night, we began our journey, but we did not yet pass through a gate. Tuesday, our second night's intention was, peeling away our armor, our discomfort is our guide to deeper understanding. On this night, we passed through the first gate, the gate of authority, where Inanna relinquishes her crown. And later, the second gate, the gate of perception, where the goddess lays down her scepter, or measuring rod. Wednesday, the intention for our third ritual was making space for the parts of us that are raw and tender. We fully embrace the diversity of our shared and individual experiences. At the gate of communication, where Inanna removes her necklace, we were asked to give up our voice. This ritual ended with our passing through the gate of compassion, where Inanna removes her breastplate. After this ritual, instead of going off and socializing over snacks as usual, we were asked to observe silence on the land. Thursday, the intent for our fifth ritual was examining our tolerance for the sacred no. We reckon with the true sources and costs of our power. On this night, we experienced the limitations of our individual power and the strength and resilience of our communal power before we crossed through the gate of power, where Inanna removes her rings. On Friday, the night of Spiral Heart's talent ritual and auction, we engaged in a different kind of ritual, indulging in repose and delight as we enjoyed the creative treasures offered by some among us. Before exiting the pavilion, we passed through the gate of creativity, where Inanna surrenders the jewelry from her feet and ankles. Saturday, the intention for our sixth night of ritual was bare and vulnerable, we honor the path we have traveled. Deep calls to deep. On this night, we gazed into the mirror and came face to face with Ereshkigal, passing through the gate of manifestation, where Inanna is stripped of her robes and stands bare. Sunday, the intention for our final ritual was, the work of the underworld continues. We plant our seeds for tomorrow. Before emerging into the outer world, we consolidated and recognized the magical work of the week and looked toward how we bring it back with us. We said farewell to all the spirits we'd worked with, including Nettie, Ereshkigal, and Inanna, thanking them all, especially Inanna, who'd guided us to and through the underworld, and marveling at how, as a mythical being, she embarks on this journey over and over and over. We opened the sacred space that had held us all week, and we threw the thread back toward Northern California to be caught at the opening of Witchlets in the Woods camp on August 5th. Why do I go to witch camp? I go for the magic. I go to suspend time, stepping between the worlds. I go to dive deep into a cycle or a story, to enact it and integrate it in many ways, on many levels, involving my whole person. I go for healing, and I go for the wonderful, diverse, entertaining, caring community that a bunch of witches can be. Please rise and body your spirit to join our voices in our closing hymn number 387, The Earth, Water, Fire, Air. Hear the words of Eric Williams. May the firmness of the earth be yours. May the flow of the water be yours. May the freedom of the air be yours. May the fierceness of the fire be yours. May all the gifts of this life, the below and the above, be with you now and remain with you always.